What's up, guys? Here we are. Is this episode 2? Episode 2, right?
Episode 2. Yep.
All right. We're here with episode 2 of Stop the Killer. And tonight we are very excited because we're going to go back in time a little bit. Way back in time. We're going to be talking to pretty much all, if I'm not mistaken, all of the original webmasters of HalloweenMovies.com. And kind of get that whole story of how it went, how it started, how it went, then how it got to you and where that led to, and it should be interesting. And I believe you actually haven't even spoken to one of these people, correct?
Right. It's so funny. The website, I don't even know who runs the website now. And I'm going to ask the guys when they come on I have no idea. But if you go to the website, it just looks like, it's a great site. But there was a time, like a heyday, like I call it, like where it was like everybody went there every day. And it was like the official place to get news. And there wasn't a lot of like media outlets. And there wasn't a lot of I don't know if Bloody Disgusting was around then and all of that. But like you would go to Halloween Movies to get Halloween news. That's where you went. And so these guys coming on, they were the OG, like they started it. And so I chimed in later thanks to them. We'll tell you the whole story. But so it's Bruce Deerbeck and Brian Martin. And I've never even met Bruce. Like I've never talked, I think maybe there was one email that like went back and forth or whatever when I got the gig for the site. But for the first time for all three of us to get together, like it's never happened. And I've kept in touch with Brian here and there. So I'm so excited because that was a really fun time in my life. I'm certain these guys are going to say the same thing. I mean, it was like the Halloween, it was like, it was crazy. It was just crazy. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm excited to hear the stories.
Awesome.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's bring them on. Welcome, Bruce, and welcome, Brian.
Hello.
Hey, gentlemen.
I can't believe this.
I was laughing because I was thinking of the line from Ghostbusters 2, when Cheech is like, better late than never, like when the Titanic shows up. That's kind of how I feel with us finally being able to talk, because I'm like, we've never actually talked or met before, but better late than never.
Absolutely.
It is an honor to be in this grouping of important people in the history of Halloween.
Oh man, I owe like everything to you guys. I'm going to tell you that later. I'll tell you guys now because these guys, before you guys came on, we let everybody know that you guys started the site. And honestly, and I say this to you on, being recorded. I don't think I'd be producing or doing what I'm doing now if it weren't for you guys. And that is the truth, because you like asked me to run the website, and I'm telling the story kind of backwards, but I'll let you guys start. But I have to say this right now is like, once I was hired, I was in, you know what I mean? Like I had access to the producers and all of that. And so I really, there's a couple people in my life I look back and I say, but for that person, I wouldn't be here. And I think you guys are definitely, so I'm just saying like hats off to you. If I could hug you right now, give you a beer, I would, because it really set me off in a really fun, exciting course of my life. So I wanted to thank you for that. Yeah, I know you weren't trying to do that, but it happened. So thank you.
Unneeded credit. It's your creative mind that sent you on that course. But in any small role we might have played, you're certainly more than welcome.
It was small, but it's significant. For sure. So, all right, Nate, I'll let you take over.
Well, yeah. So I guess let's start at the beginning. Like Bruce and Brian kind of get in the time machine, take us back in time to
Halloween 6 is where it all started.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's talk about your love for the Halloween movies briefly, and then go into how did that lead to you running HalloweenMovies.com.
Bruce, you want to start?
Go for it, Brian. Go for it.
Well, honestly, I trace my interest in Halloween back to the original VHS tape covers. And I was, I don't know, 4th grade, something like that, and would go to the video store and just, walking casually by the horror section and see these covers of the Gleason poster art on the first film and the skull pumpkin for Halloween 2, and Halloween 3 really captivated me. Something about that artwork just grabbed my attention, and I was just so interested. And of course, my parents were like, "No way, you're never going to see those." And so that just kind of made me want to see them even more. And then I remember, I don't know, I was probably in maybe 5th, 6th grade, and Halloween 2 was on TV, and my whole family watched it, and we were all scratching our heads because why is the hospital so empty? But certainly found that to be interesting. And then by 7th grade, I was starting to want to pursue film as a career, and really decided to kind of give them another look. I guess Freddy, that was Nightmare 4, I think, that came out, and I really enjoyed that one quite a bit. And that just kind of got me into Halloween, I guess. How did it start for you, Bruce? I don't know if I know this story.
It's funny. It's kind of similar. So, like, thankfully, my parents, were, I guess, kind of deranged in that they allowed us to watch horror movies as really little kids. But it was one of those great things where my mom worked at the local video store, growing up, and so pretty much any movie that when they were closing, the owner's like, y'all can bring home any movies you want as long as you bring them back the next day before the store opens back up. And so, like, we always were just watching every movie constantly. And my mom especially was a horror fan. And so, like, we would grow up watching Nightmare on Elm Street, as like a 6-year-old, and Halloween. And like Halloween is one I just loved, like, especially the suspense and everything. And so I was just obsessed with that series. Like, every time a new one came out, had to go see it. Halloween 6 opened up. My parents let my brother and I stay home from school to go see the matinee the first day of it even. So it was one of those things I was just obsessed with. And then when the internet became a thing, it's like, I'm going to teach myself HTML back in the day so I can just talk to more people outside of only the Halloween bulletin boards on Prodigy, and so that's how I got into building, my first unofficial website, which then led to, the official one. So kind of a similar path of just having such a passion and interest in wanting to talk with other like-minded people that maybe live beyond our neighborhood.
So once you who came up with the concept of, like, we should build this site?
Well, let's talk about Bruce. Can you talk about what was going on Prodigy with you and Dan?
Yeah. So back around when Halloween 6 was coming out, I was on the Prodigy bulletin boards even before, like, the World Wide Web. There were Prodigy bulletin boards, and there was, like, this horror board. And Dan Ferrens, who wrote Halloween 6, had, like, I'd been on those boards, like, talking movies all the time, and then he had started chiming in, before that, and telling trivia and everything, and everyone's like, "Whoa, like, the writer of Halloween 6 is on here." So that's how I had met him and gotten connected with him at that time, and constantly trading messages and questions and all this excitement around it. And so that was really where, like, I was introduced, kind of to that universe right there, and that led to everything else.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of where I came in, right around that time, shortly after Curse came out. I was, I think Bruce and Anthony know that I am a big Journey fan, yes. And they're in the band Journey.
That I remember quite well. I remember actually emailing you and saying there was an Italian restaurant here called Louise's. I'm in LA, and a couple times I would go there, and Steve Perry would be sitting there, and I would email. That's one of the times I'd email you. I'm like, "Your boy is sitting right here," and I'm like, "He's like eating pasta or whatever, like one table away from me," and you're like, "No way." Anyway, that I remember quite well.
But yeah, so I was in college. I had gotten into Journey bootlegs on tape, on audio cassette, and I started learning basic graphic design skills, I guess, to create custom covers for my Journey bootlegs, which led me to want to create some custom covers for my Halloween VHS tapes. And so I got a computer there starting my sophomore year of college, an actual real Windows-based computer that could do something, and I immediately wanted a scanner. Back in those days, I guess those $300 handheld scanners that you'd roll over a document or something. And so I scanned some Halloween photos I had from old Fangos, and was like, well, I've got all this stuff scanned. I just took this English class that introduced me to basic HTML, and at that time there was nothing on the internet about Halloween. Halloween 6, I guess Dimension had some very basic web page there, with a couple of photos and a TV spot or two or something. And so I was like, well, there's one picture of Michael Myers from Halloween 1 on the entire internet. Why don't I just make a page and put a few photos up there. So I started, I guess, the first fan Halloween website on the internet. And that's how Dan and Bruce kind of found me, I guess.
So now you've got the site. So the site is up and running. And what kind of content were you originally going for? What was your vision for the site when you first launched it?
There wasn't one. There was, let's put some pictures on the internet. And I, the Fango issues I had and a couple other little news articles or whatever, I just tried to type up some, 4-paragraph behind the scenes summary of the film. That's how the content started. And then when Dan and Bruce contacted me, I was like, well, hey Dan, how about you want to do an interview for the web page? And he was all about that, and I thought it was just the coolest thing in the entire world for a little kid from North Carolina to be talking to the screenwriter of Halloween 6. I can still remember the phone conversation. And so that kind of got me really interested in maybe pursuing this kind of journalistically in terms of telling the stories of how these films were made and what their place is in this world. And I think kind of everything built from there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you have any, just in general, was there any anything that sticks out that you had on the site that was you couldn't believe you had access to, or you were able to dig up? Is there anything that you guys dug up when you were running the site that was to you was a massive find? Whether it's photos or maybe a script that had never, because this is back before, now you can find any of this stuff. There's every picture, every script you want to.
Right, it was weird for you to say, Brian, there wasn't even a picture of Michael Myers on the internet. I'm like, there was a world like that, but there was a world like that where there was that to me resonated. Yeah, because as a kid, also I felt very alone. I felt why am I so obsessed with this movie? Did you guys feel like that too?
Oh, yeah, because horror, I mean, especially in the mid 90s, horror wasn't really all that mainstream. And remembering that the internet had just started off, and it's so you just have your group of weird friends in your school, and it's all whoever you grew up by. And so it's you've got maybe a couple of kids, a couple of friends that really like horror the same way as you do. Otherwise, everyone else is into other things.
Yeah.
And so that's why for me, it was when I wanted to just create my own little unofficial page, it was just a way to connect with other people and wanted to share our own stories of what we did and didn't like. What do we think is going to happen in the next movie? And then, that kind of thing. And suddenly seeing that, for me, I would always hit reload on the page counter to see how many people are actually showing up. and then getting emails from people, starting conversations. I'm like, whoa, this is wild. For one, people are even finding this, but there's other folks out there that care about the series and the characters in the same kind of level that I do, beyond just my 2 or 3 friends that are Halloween heads like I am. So that was just world opening.
It was really eye opening, because all of a sudden you'd get all these emails from people and they wanted to take part in this, and there wasn't a fan club. I think Nightmare on Elm Street had some kind of fan club, if I remember right, but I mean, nothing existed for Halloween. There was no marketing. You could buy the soundtrack, and occasionally when a new film would come out, a magazine, and that was the extent of Halloween fandom at the time. So it was just kind of suddenly a realization that hey, this is a really big thing in this world, and people actually care about at least this film, if not all the films. And to answer the question that you originally posed, Nate, so I guess let's get to the point where we actually start the real website. Bruce, your site was called Returning to Haddonfield.
My first one was Haddonfield Online. Was my first one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had a site, and we really, I think both Bruce and I have to give mad credit to Dan Ferrens, because he went to bat for us. He kind of realized that we could build this giant fan base and connect us all. And he really went to Malik and Mustafa and really convinced them to start some kind of. It was a big deal about being called official at the time. You wouldn't believe what we went through with that, but starting some kind of a place to get official information, I think, is what we finally had to advertise it as. And I can still remember the email from Dan. He started off with, "I've got big news for you. And we talked to Malik through several phone calls, and we kind of tried to merge the content on both of our sites that we had. And when it started, it was we launched October 30th, 1997, and I think I did the math earlier, 26 years ago. And it was
so
we
must have been three or 4 years old when we started that. Wow.
You probably were. You probably
were
were
pretty advanced.
It was a mad dash. I actually I was going through stuff here to try to find some interesting things to maybe show. And this is, I don't know how well this will come across on screen. This is a fax of the domain name order form I had to fax in on October 30th, 1997. It was that last minute. Trying to get it. And of course, back then in the dial-up days, it took forever to upload anything.
Yeah.
And it was just this giant mad dash to get it launched that night. That's one thing that will never leave my memory.
Oh, man.
And anyway, then all of a sudden we had a website. And in terms of the history of the name, I guess this might be a little interesting. I remember we had a phone call. You were on it, Bruce, and I think Dan might have been. I know Malik was. And I remember we proposed several different names, and kind of at the time, the standard for movie websites was whateverfilm.com. And I remember posing something and halloweenmovies.com, and Malik was just like, okay, yeah, let's go with that, halloweenmovies.com. It was not exciting.
Well, I mean, and I'm sure now thinking through, like, now that, like, I'm on the, like, advertising, like social media, marketing kind of world, like now I start using that lens, and I'm like, oh, they probably wanted something that worked for the past but was future proof, that it's safe enough, whatever they want to, whatever sequel is going to be called, got to keep it generic enough that it's going to work, regardless. So yeah, it's like, oh, okay, so yeah, it's safe enough. And hey, we didn't even know that back then it was probably like search engine optimized, and people were just gonna be typing in, I want a website about the Halloween movies.
Movies, right, exactly.
Like, so Malik was ahead of his time, and I guess probably realizing, yeah, that works.
I still think HalloweenFilms.com would have made it sound a little bit more
classier.
Important.
Yeah,
classier. Halloween Films, right. It's so funny. I remember getting the email or seeing some announcement that said big news is coming, and I'm like, what big news could possibly be coming? Like, and then it was like, we're official. And it was really big news. Cause then it was like, oh, you have direct access, to the producers and stuff.
But Anthony, it was the biggest disaster. I don't know how much you remember of this, Bruce.
Tell me, I want to know.
we knew it was going to be, an official website, and we tried to figure out how can we make this fun, right? Turn it into a Halloween treat. And so, didn't we call it the Halloween Internet Surprise, something like that? And we hyped it up, and we had to extend it out because there were problems getting things paid and server space, and Malik, I think, wanted us to keep putting off announcing it, and people got so fed up waiting for us to reveal what that was going to be. And I just remember a lot of hate mail after that.
I know it's hard to believe because people don't get like irate on the internet about things. So, but and I also remember like always being a little bit nervous about like what were we going to be allowed to say and not say anymore. Not that like on our unofficial pages we were ever disparaging, but it's like in those days it's always like you're posting rumors and stuff too, because everyone, it's like what's the next one going to be about, and oh, I heard from someone who said this, or I heard from someone who said that, and then it's like, okay, once we can do this, like what does like the level of like approvals look like as far as what we can and can't say or show, or that. So I remember that was like kind of a little bit.
Did you guys have to get everything? Did you have to get everything approved through Trancas before you posted something?
No.
Okay.
No, I will say we had a lot of freedom. I too had those fears when we started, but Malik just kind of let us run. I think he put a lot of trust into us.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, I don't think copyright on the internet was anywhere near as big of a deal as it is in today's world. So it was very few problems. I do remember something about the Don Post mask. He asked us to pull something down about that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, there really weren't too many problems Trancas ever had with what we were doing.
No.
So when the website really became what it was, HalloweenMovies.com, how far into I don't want to say production, but did the website come about when Halloween 7 was kind of already announced, or did that come after the website became Halloween Movies?
That was before, wasn't it, Brian? Because we start, it was 97, right? It was October 30th of 97. And 98 was when they did production pretty quickly on that one. So I remember there were I think there were rumors and stuff of, because there was still the Revenge of Laurie Strode script or whatever out there.
Right.
This was all definitely before Jamie Lee Curtis, was coming back or any of that kind of stuff. So there was rumblings that there was going to be another film, but it was nothing to the level of all the folks that were actually going to be involved with it when we started. It was kind of one of those things where it's oh, cool. Not that we stumbled upon it, because, we had our sites we did for a while, but I remember being whoa, this is a really cool time to be involved in this now, because none of us ever thought Jamie Lee Curtis was coming back, considering she had kind of shunned horror, for a while after that. And, John Carpenter didn't have any, interest at that time in coming back. So I don't think any of us ever thought we were going to get whatever you think of Halloween H2O. That was a huge thing for the Halloween franchise. So that was, so we came on before any of that stuff.
I think we were just under the assumption that we were just going to continue on after Halloween 6. Maybe Tommy Doyle would be back and Marianne Hagen. Yep. There was no inkling that it was going to turn into an event with H2O.
No.
You guys went to the premiere, right? Of H2O?
I went to the press junket. You went to the premiere, right, Bruce?
Yeah. I was going through some of my old paperwork, and I found some of the stuff, Brian, from that you had shared from the junket too, of some of the round tables and stuff when you were going to be there. And then I found some of the press clippings where the stuff was faxed, where it's their PR team had what people were saying on the internet on Dark Horizons and some other unofficial sites, and what early reviews were going to be. And so it was kind of fun looking through that stuff again to see what they were saying. But I was able to go out for the actual premiere, and I dug up some photos from that as well, which is funny to look at. So that was a blast. So we got to kind of tag team some of that coverage there as well. And again, for me, as a kid, at that time I was when Halloween H2O came out, I was 20. So for a kid from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, being able to go to this premiere, I was just, my eyes were just this wide. I'm I've got a photo of me taking a photo. It's a selfie, but it's with a disposable camera. So before anyone had even taken selfies, I've got a horrible photo of me taking a selfie, with half my face, only in it, and I'm I'm taking photos with everyone here because this is amazing. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do this again. So the website provided me so many amazing opportunities, stories, things that still to this day now, 26 or whatever years later, it's just I still have to pinch myself because I'm oh my god, this is just so wild. The
press junket, and again, I think we need to give kudos to Malik and Mustafa for being willing to pay to send us out there. They did not have to do that, but I think they wanted us to have a little bit of fun, and I had the same experience, for this kid from small town North Carolina to be dropped into the middle of Beverly Hills for the press junket. I remember walking into the hospitality suite, and Tony Timponi, I think, was the editor of Fango, and he was standing there checking in. I'm I know who he is. He wrote that great article retrospective on Halloween, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting at this table with Michelle Williams, and there's Josh Hartnett, and oh gosh, Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm finally sitting in the room with Jamie Lee Curtis. Got to keep my cool. I'm working here, right? I can't fanboy out. So it was just mind-boggling, and to this day I still think, these are experiences that I'm willing to bet most Halloween fans would absolutely kill to have had, and how lucky both you and I were to have those, Bruce, and certainly you as well, Anthony, with what came later.
So when H2O was basically, the rumors were done and it was official and Jamie Lee was coming back and everything, did that really kind of change how you guys were working on the website? Because it was almost it seems like when you were creating the site, it was okay, the Halloween movies, they might be over. 6 could have been the last one. We don't really know. Now it's it's back and it's huge again, and Jamie Lee's back. Did that really change how you guys were operating the site, because it was a new movie was coming out, and things like that. Did that change anything?
I mean, I can say like, so I did a lot more on the side of like using the forums and, you know, kind of sparking conversations on the forums and moderation and stuff there. As we kind of did a little bit of a divide and conquer on stuff. And so I know that at that time there was way more chatter, you know, on those boards, but then it also came with kind of like what we see on Twitter or X or whatever we would want to call it today or tomorrow. You know, there was just a lot of like people posting a million different things. So it's like, okay, we have to like figure out what we have to take off and moderate and, you know, not let people say, but then so for me, I had a lot more work kind of on that side.
Okay.
And so that kind of changed because like people use the forums, but went nuts, you know, once the green light happened, and then there was just, you know, rumors and trying to guess what it was going to be all about. So that, I think that was probably the biggest change of things that I kind of saw.
It seems like the workload is what really changed. I mean, we still had the same philosophy. It was, I think, always our intention to always try to have something fresh on there very, very frequently. Most movie websites update every couple of weeks, maybe every couple of months, and that isn't, I think, what we ever wanted it to be. We wanted to keep interest going, to make it exciting, to make it fun, to make it something that we would want to take part in as fans. And so that was work though, right? It takes effort to do graphics or to come up with fun games or a map of Haddonfield or add a video clip. So it was just the workload. I know, you know, kind of at the height when H2O was released, it was nothing for me to spend like 30 hours, 40 hours a week when we were paid to work, maybe 5 hours a week or something.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, the pay wasn't great.
No, but it was the experience, right?
No, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm just so cool. They have to pay you something. They can't like be like, just do this for free. But I don't know. I got a lot of enjoyment just out of doing it. I mean, it wasn't a money source at all. Really.
No.
I wasn't paying bills with it.
Yeah. but again, it is like, not to sound cliche, but it is the experiences that came with it, you know, and for me, I'm like, now when I look back, kind of the skill sets I developed doing a lot of that now lead to like what I do, like in the marketing side of things and like a lot of social media. I'm like, to Brian's point, like I remember that it's like, it's content generation. I'm trying to come up with, without realizing or having a name, a content calendar at that time, because I'm like, Brian, you're exactly right. The big fear, and you know what people were saying in the forums is, oh great, so now that you guys have the official page, you're never going to update, or it's going to be blah blah blah. And so like I've got that voice in my head from people also commenting that all the time. So I'm constantly thinking too, like, we need to keep having stuff coming out here, because every other, like the few official pages that are out there, they're the boring sites that never get updated. So I remember that always being what kind of content can we put out there, which is no different than kind of now with like, if you're running a brand page on social media, it's like, how do you keep up with enough videos for your TikTok channel or whatever else? And so it's funny. You build up those skill sets.
Back then, you guys were learning the pressures of making sure you get those clicks coming in, you know, because otherwise you lose, you know. But I also think, like, did you guys find that even if there was a lull, you still had people coming to this? Because I had people saying to me, I went to that site every day religiously when I was working. So like they would go to work, and the first thing they did at work was they would check the site. And there's nothing going on. They would, you know, so I think because it was Halloween, for me, just I found it was like, if there was a lull, it didn't really matter. But it's interesting that you guys say that, you know, because you're right. It could get really boring, really old, really fast.
I think my insight into that is, if there was a lull, that's when I would pursue someone new to interview for the site.
Yeah, right.
That's when I need to pull out that little phone book and see who might be willing to do an interview now.
Right.
I think, but that sparks a memory of, and this would have been just before we got the HalloweenMovies.com, but on the unofficial page, like it's so cringe now, but because the internet was new, going on different like Yahoo or Excite.com and just typing like random searches for people associated with the movie and seeing if I could find their phone number. So like I remember finding Alan Howarth's phone number like on the internet, and like calling him for an interview.
Called him?
Kind of thing. Yeah, and like there's and he's like, oh sure, you know. So like I only took like 5 minutes of his time, because I'm like, is this Alan Howarth? And like there's hesitation. Hi, you don't know me. And I'm like, again, at this time I'm like, you know, 18 or something, you know, but like I was just dumb and young enough to be like, I'm going to try this. And it's like, because this number's out here, I'm going to interview this person and put it on my unofficial page. And yeah, you just kind of find different people to try to interview or, send some emails out or ask someone.
Now there's like 3 people you have to go through and you have to get in line. And you guys got in at the right time too.
Yeah.
It was like it was the time. And with Jamie Lee coming back, it was like this confluence of really cool circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a little bit of a fun story kind of in line with that. Right before we became the official website, I think my second interview, the first was Dan, the second was Ellie Cornell from Halloween 4. Nice. And I used to use Screen Actors Guild to try to locate their agents. And so I got her agent's phone number and I just picked up the phone and called, and this voice answered, and I immediately realized Ellie Cornell was on the phone. And I said, I'm trying to reach a representative for Miss Cornell. I'm working on this Halloween website, wondering if she'd like to be interviewed. She was like, let me get your name and number and call you back.
No.
And so she did call me back a couple hours later. She called Trancas, I guess, to verify or something, and fussed out Screen Actors Guild. They had given out her home telephone number instead of her agent's number due to some paperwork mishap. But I think I freaked out Rachel Carruthers for just a little bit.
I love that you guys are just cold calling. You were just
and the funny thing, I look back now, I'm like, I would never do that now. I'm like in my mid 40s, and I'm like, but I was dumb and young enough to be like, oh, this is probably totally cool. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing creepy about someone just randomly calling up their house. I'm like, I could see why they'd probably be like, I'm gonna call you back.
Out of everyone I contacted like that over the years, there was only one person. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but there was only one person from Halloween 2 who. Talking to her, she just said, no, I have no interest in being interviewed. No. Everybody else was really open to it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, you've narrowed it down at least. Like
I know you did. She from Halloween.
Now in the chat, everyone's going to start putting their guesses out there. Brian will not confirm.
All right, here's the thing. Everybody watching, type in the chat who you think it is. And if there's 4 or 5 different people, you can say yes if you see one name out of the 5.
If Brian is all of a sudden caw like this from a name coming across, then we know.
I will never reveal. And I guess kind of along those lines, I did do one interview that never got published. It was with Joe Wolf from Compass International. He was co-executive producer or something on the first film. I can't remember his title. But he talked to me, and back in those days, there in the 90s, the powers that be in the Halloween world were different factions, and they didn't necessarily all get along very well at all. So the interview with Joe, he gave some wonderful comments and a lot of really good insight. And I typed up the interview and sent it to him, and he was like, I really don't want to publish this. I just don't. And so it still to this day remains unpublished.
Wow. Yeah, because Joe, my memory of Joe, because I met Joe because of the Halloween convention, and I remembered he was the nicest guy. He was really nice, very old school, didn't have any computer, just had like a yellow pad on his desk with a pen, and and he, I don't want to say too much about the legal problems they had, but I don't know, that might have been a legal thing. He might have just not wanted to put himself out there because there was problems among all the producers, so that might have been a reason why he was apprehended.
I would easily believe that, but he was a very nice man.
He was so sweet, very, very, very nice guy.
I gotta say the most fun I think I ever had on an interview was with Lance Guest from Halloween 2.
Oh wow.
So he's out of the running. He's not the one, but he was just fun. He was so down to earth and just like every other person on the face of the earth, just a regular guy. He was just great fun to talk to.
Yeah. I used to love reading those interviews. I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous. They got to talk to all these people. And
well, it's like kind of like what I think Bruce said earlier. I mean, in those days, that was kind of right there before DVD was hitting. And so there weren't the commentaries on the DVDs and the featurettes and all the interviews and the websites filled with interviews. They're everywhere now. I mean, there's no story about the making of these films that has not come out yet. They've all been told, but back then it was all new.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of merch either. So when you guys would announce, like, there must have been something you announced, like the Suncoast Globe or something like that. You know, like there was
so
a
the Anchor
handful.
Bay. I remember like the Anchor Bay tapes or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think those.
Yes, right there.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I have
yes,
that.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
One of my leftovers.
When that was announced, I like ran to the mall to Suncoast and like went beeline to Suncoast up the escalator, slid in there with my socks, just grabbed it. You know,
that was probably like a full paycheck back then too, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
Everybody plugged down. They're like, "Here's my whole paycheck." And
yeah.
This is
I suppose we ought to hit on. I know we're gonna run out of time eventually. I guess we ought to hit on Halloween 8 just a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Because that was really exciting.
Oh, I think that's so. That's when I helped you guys. I remember you had called me.
Yeah, how did you get involved in this? That was my next question.
I was thinking like what my very first memory was, and it was Resurrection. It was Resurrection.
8 was going on, and we were really well established there. Trancas had a secretary named Melinda Farrell. Do you remember Melinda, Bruce?
No, I go back to Christy. So she must have been before Christy.
Yeah, because I left like right around the time of Resurrection, around there, and so yeah, that's about the time that I.
She was terribly helpful, and I would just call her, and she'd give me the latest dish. And I don't know if she was supposed to or not, but she was terribly nice and really looked out for us and tried to send us any information she could. And I remember there was talk with Dimension wanted to take the film out of Haddonfield and put it in a big city, and we did some great big poll.
That was the last kind of my last hurrah was involved in those polls there, because that was like the big thing where they actually used the website as like their way to take it to them, be like, the fans will revolt and you're gonna like they will not be a fan of this at all.
So you guys had a voice in that. You guys actually communicated and said, please don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, that was one of the, like cool. I do remember that was like one of the big things where like it came down right from them, and I kind of had this wow moment that like, wow, we might actually like be able to help, like stop this from going in a wrong direction in some small way. So they can at least see it's like, of course we were just the megaphone, to it, but it's like great because like, I mean that would not have been. I mean, maybe nowadays, I mean, look how Scream, went out of Woodsboro and went to New York City, so
but it was disappointing.
But back then would not have. Yes, yeah, it was not a good decision, in my opinion. But yeah, but back then, especially the way horror and Halloween fans, were, if they would have tried to leave, Haddonfield, it would have been as bad as taking Friday the 13th to outer space,
Right.
With 8, I was really disappointed because obviously
I love Jason X, by the way.
I just wanted to really see how you get the comments going, to see. I'm sure people feel real strongly about that.
with 8, I was really disappointed because obviously the content of the film was centered on the internet, and I'm like, hey, we are the Halloween website. We can do so much with this, and I guess it was kind of my dream to have some kind of. I think Spielberg did this maybe with one of the Jurassic Park films, kind of some kind of live webcam as the film was being shot. That never went anywhere. The best we got was Malik had some photographer from Miramax send us a daily picture that we released when the film was being shot. And I remember we got in trouble with Miramax because after we posted 5 or 6 of them, Miramax called Malik just freaking out. Who gave you permission to take these photos and post these photos? And Malik's like, it's your Miramax person taking these photos and sending them to us. So I still think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity there to cash in on the whole internet shtick.
That would have been really cool to have your site in the movie. Just that would have been really, really neat. Just kind of have you guys programming it or something. But
I do too. I guess I should stick in that I did the only real work I ever did on any of the films was just a tiny bit of pre-production work on Halloween 8. They had me mock up some kind, whatever the web interface was going to be for Dangertainment, isn't that what it ended up being called?
Yeah.
And I remember our department sending me stuff and coming up with something that they showed Rick Rosenthal. And Malik wanted to fly me up to be on the set. I don't know if that was ever presented to you or not, Bruce. For like a week or something to help with the video playback stuff. And timing wise, it timed with my students' final exams, and I was like, sorry, I'd love to do that, but I have students I'm responsible for, and I want to see them through the year.
Right.
So I passed that one up. It was also going to be unpaid.
Right. So what made you guys? All right. So what happened was I came home one day. I had a desk job, and I came home one day and I got a message from Christy that said, our current webmasters are stepping away, and they recommended you. And so thank you guys so much, because and I mean, it was like winning the lottery. Like literally, that's what it felt like. I mean, it's like, well, I got lightheaded. I was like, and she's like, would you like the job? Call me back. It's yours. And I was like, like, it was that easy. And so how did that happen? Like, why would you, like, what happened? Why did you guys step away?
I stepped away because Halloween 8. It's got good parts, but it's obviously a departure from what I think Halloween should be.
Right.
And Halloween is kind of the granddaddy of this kind of horror film. And I want the films to have some kind of quality to it. And I felt at that point that the quality was just kind of dropping a little bit after the H2O success. And I guess kind of the John Carpenter mindset that I'm just kind of, done with this now, since it's turning into just generic stuff.
Right.
And it was the Myers Museum you ran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
So
a screen grab of it.
Yeah.
I'll show you. Hold on.
Man,
Yeah,
I remember the Myers Museum. Yes.
You did such quality work, and I think I left right before you did, Bruce, or it might have been vice versa. I honestly can't remember.
I left just before I was, because it was a similar reason. Like, I was not feeling Halloween Resurrection, and I was finally like, a couple years like into real adult job, and everything. I was like just trying to juggle it all was so difficult, and I'm like, it's just, I feel like I've had all my experiences with this. It feels like the film itself is going in a different place. Not to sound cheesy, but I didn't feel like I had anything else that I hadn't said or could bring to it, kind of new or fresh. And so that's when I was like, I can't commit to this anymore. It's almost the same reason I don't want to just get a title or, a paycheck kind of thing. I'm like, and if I don't feel great about it, and that's why I was like, I got to, step away. And then, Brian, I know, like, I was around.
So you guys really genuinely lost interest. You didn't see it just wasn't, you weren't into the movies they were making anymore, pretty much. That sounds like
it just changed.
Like, yeah, it's like, oh, H2O was so great, and then we moved into this movie, and a lot of fans liked it, but it just wasn't your thing, and so your interest kind of waned in it. Is that
right.
Really
and in your life, and plus, like, again, at that time, then I'm getting more into like my mid-20s and work life and other life too.
So with like adult things.
Yeah. So suddenly it's kind of like, okay, like the movies are kind of changing. Plus my own interests are kind of changing. So I'm like, at that point, it's like,
yeah.
Plus it's almost like you're holding on to something where it's like someone else could maybe breathe the right life into this again and like bring their passion back to it, because while I still love the series, at that point, after it had been 3-4 years or whatever it had been, at that point, it's like, okay, my passion at the end wasn't the same as it was in the beginning, just because I'd done so much of what I wanted to do on the website. So it's like, why hold on to this if someone else can now maybe step in with that fresh enthusiasm and brand new mindset and new ideas for this, so it can continue on now and hopefully now go the next number of years and sequels beyond that, versus just we stop really nurturing this and it just kind of dies out.
Yeah, it became kind of cumbersome thinking about Halloween all day, every day. It seems like fun, but in reality, I mean, you reach your breaking point. And Anthony, you had done such quality work on your website. I think I threw your name out. I don't remember to Bruce or to Malik or to who it was, and was just like, if you need somebody, this guy's doing really good work.
I appreciate it, really, because I mean, it was like it was one of the best times of my life. I'm trying to share my screen. I don't know if you can see my my screen. I guess not. Let me try again.
I got it. I just got to add it.
Oh, add it. Okay, cool. So this was the site that I was. I mean, it looks really like primitive now, but
which I love. Like when I go back and see all these, because I'm like, oh, those are simpler times.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's so weird. Like when you said, Bruce, before that you taught yourself like HTML programming. That's exactly what I did, and that's how I started my site. I just wanted to learn HTML, and I had this Halloween collection growing, and I thought, well, I'll just take pictures of my my collectibles and posters and stuff, and just you have to have content, for a site. And so that's what I did. And I remember, and so I don't know if you remember these leaves here, like they used to fall.
The animated ones, yes.
Right. So I obsessed over Halloween, and there's like another shot of it, and these are from the Wayback Machine. So I've been, yeah, and like the Spooky World. I mean, that was a horror theme park in Massachusetts, which is no longer there. There was the Myers Museum message board.
The message boards were
right, and then I don't know if you remember Orange Grove Video.
Oh my God, yes.
Dude, my friend Dave was not me, and I'm telling you the truth. My friend Dave was selling tapes, which he should not have been doing. I'm totally saying it was completely copyright infringement. I don't know. We didn't really think that. I mean, I don't remember saying to him, "You shouldn't be doing this." I mean, he got into editing, and he was putting these tapes together, and we sold them on the site. So I did the artwork for him, but we had Haddonfield T-shirts, which I'm wearing here. And so it was just so I'm so glad that you guys knew about my site. And Brian, if it was you that said, "Hey, hire this guy who's doing good work," that's because I was thinking about Halloween every day. I was obsessing over it, and I'd go to work and I'd program my site. I remember my boss used to walk by, and I'd be like, I'd hit a button to say hide the screen like that. I mean, Halloween was kind of like all of us. We go through that obsession, of like, oh, I love this series so much, and I was just drawing a fan base.
But you took it to like a whole new level, because I mean, you did the site, but then it was the 25th convention, right?
Yeah, so that was around the same time, right? So you guys, like, the timing, they say timing is everything. I had started planning the 25 Years of Terror website, or the Halloween Returns to Haddonfield website, which they replicate every 5 years, and they did one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I did the first one, and I dug out. This is a letter from Mustafa Akkad that's on Trancas International Films,
love it, the
whole thing. And it says, "Dear Anthony, we are all enthusiastic about the upcoming 25th anniversary convention. I would be pleased and most honored to make an appearance at the event as my schedule allows. You may contact Christy, blah, blah, blah." And then Mustafa signed it. And I got this mail to me, because back then we used mail, you guys.
When you read that, I hear it in Mustafa's voice.
But so I came home and I heard that message from Christy that said, "We'd like to offer you the job if you're interested." And I said, "Sure." And like a couple days later, I lived in San Diego at the time, and I called in sick to work so that I could drive up to Century City where their office was. And I went in, we've seen it on the videos, of like that big building, and you go up the elevator into the office. And I opened the door, and Mustafa was sitting at his table, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually here. And Christy's there, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Anthony. You called me about the gig," and whatever. And Malik, here's the thing. Malik is like, he's the king of Halloween right now. Mikey, I know you're listening. With somebody's watching here. He's probably laughing at that. And Malik had this little office, this little tiny
over
office
there to the side.
off to the side. And so Mustafa met me, and he was like, "Oh, whatever." So I actually interviewed with Malik, and I called up my website, and I remember the leaves were falling, and he was like, "I like the leaves." and Mustafa came in, and so I'm in this little office, and Mustafa's in the door, and Malik is there, and Malik just kept nodding. He's like, "Okay," and he's clicking through, and I'm like, "God, please don't let my site go down." And Mustafa said, he goes, "Anthony, I have to ask Tony, I have to ask you, what is it about Michael Myers that people love so much?" And I said to him, this is what I said. I go, "I honestly don't know." I said, "But I know how to keep them engaged." And he looked at Malik, and Malik said, "Well, I love your site. You got the job." And I'm like, "Yes." And that was it. And it was like the greatest day ever.
Yeah.
So.
You have just sparked a memory in me. I don't mean to interrupt your story, Anthony, but I was only in the office one time, and Mustafa was out of the country. But I think I don't remember what I was visiting for. But anyway, Melinda, the secretary, set up Paul Freeman to come over and meet me at the office, who produced 4 and 6 and 7 and 8. And we had T sitting in Mustafa's office, and here's this producer of the Halloween films. He also produced the North and the South TV miniseries, and I'm just sitting here in this, like you say, this giant skyscraper in Century City, having tea with this Hollywood producer, and it's just such an amazing feeling to have experiences like that.
Yeah, and it's funny, because I mean, all we had seen as Halloween fans is, the interview with Mustafa for some of the Anchor Bay, and you're sitting right there, and he's at his big desk, he had this giant desk, and Lion of the Desert, painting behind him and all that, and you're like, oh, I've seen all this. This is so cool. But yeah, it was so great. So when I took over the site, the first thing I did was like redesign it, just because I'm a control freak, and that's when I went there. And so I gave it kind of like this look, like
I remember that. Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. This is a blast from the past.
Right.
Wow.
That's why I went. I'm like, I gotta find old photos.
Yes.
I designed this. I don't even know what it is, but I designed this like silver ring thing, and like when
it's like a compass, right? Compass International, subconsciously.
You know what? That's the first I've heard that. All these years later, I'll take credit for it. It's the compass.
Genius.
My company is Massy Media, and I had a friend say to me, I love how you took the phrase mass media and just made it Massy Media. And I'm like, I had no intention of doing that, but I have a knack for doing that. Yeah, and when you like moved your cursor over I can't do it now, it's just a screen grab, but like news, movie, whatever, the middle photo here would change. And but I just went back and I found some old I would just I would just take favorite photos and stuff like that. When Mustafa passed away, I was at the office that day when Christy got the call. I walked in on her taking the call that Mustafa was in a terrorist attack. And I had a meeting with Malik that day, and I walked in during her call. I was supposed to have a meeting with him, and the lights were out, and I thought he had forgotten my meeting because he's done that before. And so when she hung up the phone, I just said jokingly, I'm like, oh, he forgot again, and she looked horrified. And she told me what had happened. And it just, we sat there for the longest time. And what I did when that happened, I mean, if people are watching, you don't know, Mustafa and his daughter were killed in a terrorist attack. And it was horrible. So I shut the site down. And I remember my instinct was to just shut it down and let it be a memorial. And I remember Malik called me, I don't know, a week after and thanked me for that. And I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to do something, you know? So we had like a memorial page for him, but like PJ Souls was on VH1 at some point. And so like, I would just change the front page to kind of just look like cool. And I remembered on the Ultimate Halloween message board, when I had taken over the site, I remembered somebody said, run, don't walk to the website, like because of this. This is like nothing now. But we interviewed Pam Shoup, and I was always hawking 25 Years of Terror on the homepage. And yeah, that's all. So these are just some like really cool, like.
Oh my God, it's so great. Halloween 9.
While you're there, if you're willing to, Nate, you want to switch over and let me present? I've got a couple from even further back.
Let me stop sharing.
Not a lot.
Yeah, I want to see some of those photos. Go ahead.
Let's see. I guess I have to hit present. Screen.
It's kind of tricky. Yeah, video file, and then click your window. It says like window.
Window or screen. Okay.
And then you can select the window you want.
Well, let's just do entire screen. So I hope this works. Is that coming up?
I don't see anything yet.
No. Oh, allow. Okay.
Somebody's asking in the chat here if it was at a wedding or wedding reception. You're right. It was a wedding reception. I think Mustafa and his daughter were in town for a wedding, and there was the hotel lobby they were in that was bombed. It was pretty serious, pretty bad. Oh, wow.
Get the image up. That's one of them. Let's see what else I got. That's when I got on a Flash kick for a while. Anything animated I could do.
And that, because Flash was like huge then. And that's where, like, for me, it was transitioning where I'm like, okay, HTML is like I can only do some HTML work, but I was not, I could not grasp Flash. And so for me, I'm like, I'm going to have to be more of like content guy, because Brian like had all the skills for this stuff. And thank God it was kind of a, at least our skill sets, if one lacked one, the other had it, and versus us all just doing, because like
I had the
I remember like he was
fear.
amazing at this stuff where I was always blown away by what he was doing like on Flash.
Yeah,
it was all make it up as I go. I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, you did a great job with it. It didn't look like it, because it definitely looked like you had like been doing this forever.
Some of it I'm sure was horrible. And this is a graphic. This is from pre-HalloweenMovies.com. This was for my homepage, whatever it was called. And I just always thought that putting the mask and the knife as a reflection was just really cool.
I didn't even see that. Oh my God. I didn't know. Yeah. So cool.
Enjoyed your bed here at the Myers house. He got hungry. That's me in the Trancas office.
Oh, neat.
Oh, young Brian.
I know right where you're standing. You're right next to the reception desk. Yeah.
Yep. And that was, I guess, from my fan page starting.
I remember that one too, Brian. I remember that one. Well, iPass. Was it iPass? No. .net or what? Something slash right. Journey fan. There's like a slash Journey fan. Like, was a substring in there? Like.
Yep. And it was so cool when Halloween Ends came out last year, and I'm just watching it, and then all of a sudden Allison's got a Journey T-shirt on, and that was like
Brian, Halloween in the theaters. I thought of you the second I saw that. I'm like, Brian is going to love this, because I remembered how big of a Journey fan that you are, and it's hilarious that was the first place my mind went in theaters.
It was very exciting. It was very exciting.
I'm going to try to present super fast. I know we're at the end here, so I'll make this
take your time.
Take your time. Screen. I've got 2 monitors, and so, boy, let's see if screen 1.
While Bruce is pulling that up, I got to say I've been reading some of the comments as they pop up, and I'm glad you guys are at least getting some smiles out of hearing these stories from these old people.
I know, us olds here. Let's see if it's going to allow me to just share this.
I think we were there during the most exciting time. That's what I call it, like the heyday, because it's like, it's true. Like before I ran the site, I was going to your site every day. I could not get enough of it. I was like, what are they announcing today? What are they doing? I just couldn't believe that there was a website dedicated to Halloween. So thanks for starting it, because it was it was an obsession of mine, and not just me, and I didn't feel alone. I felt like there were so many other people that were enjoying it, as much as it was the internet. I remember I was at work and we were all told there's this thing called the internet. And I was like, what's that? And I looked up Halloween. It was like the first thing I tried to search for. So
it was great. It was such a new world, especially in those early days. Absolutely. And I mean, Bruce, I'm sure you will agree, we had no idea what we were doing. We were making everything up as we went.
Yep.
And we just wanted to pay homage and treat the film series, especially the first film, with great respect, and try to honor what Carpenter and Deborah Hill did, along with Irwin and Mustafa and everyone involved in it.
Yeah, no, it was just a labor of love. Like we all jokingly said, like we didn't do it for any kind of paycheck. It seriously was like just to talk to other people, who had the same passions as us, get some cool new memories, unique memories along the way. And it was like, I mean, the internet was the Wild West back then. It's like you could see there was so much potential, but no one knew what it really was. And so that was half the fun. Is like, I'm going to teach myself HTML. I'm going to teach myself graphic design. I'm going to talk to people about what's happening in the next movie. And like for me, that did introduce me to like the whole notion of spoilers, because like I unfortunately, from going through emails that were sent to us, knew the ending of H2O before it even came out. I didn't know if it was correct or not, but like someone had sent me the photo of like the head cut, Michael Myers' head cut off on the ground. And like, I saw this in an email and I'm like, well, this can't be real. It's not going to. And then all of a sudden, like after I see and then started hearing rumors leading up to it anyways. And then the movie comes out. I'm like, oh shit, like I guess I like months in advance like
Right, exactly.
actually did know the demise. Like I remember having this JPEG in my email of that head
Wow.
there. I was like, whoa, that's the first time like I had a
Yeah.
Halloween movie spoiled before it came out. Didn't really think it was
There was
that,
so much fan mail too. Like every day there was so much fan mail. I remember like going like, I don't have time to answer everything. And was it like that for you guys? Because like also because you started like right before H2O. So was there a lot of fan mail in the beginning as opposed to like after H2O, or did it increase for you guys?
I struggle to remember on the email side. I just remember like on the message boards in particular, like we had pretty steady, people commenting, went nuts with Halloween H2O, but like it's still, I was always blown away by like you'd log on and like see a bunch of new like threads, starting up constantly. Cause it's like after a while you'd think like, people would have kind of talked about everything they were going to talk about. And it was great because like for me, I was always trying to decide, like, do I have to try to spark a new conversation? But everyone was just kind of always taking it in their own directions. So it always seemed like there's interest there. Otherwise, like, I don't recall too many on the email side of things, how much we got. It was
like endless. It was just like, I would answer 10 emails and there'd be 10 more and 10 more. And it was like, I felt like a jerk because I wanted to respond to everything, but I couldn't. It was too much. It was like, what am I supposed to sit here all day answering people? Asking the same questions over and over, and ideas for other movies. I remember saying to Mal, like, we get people telling us what the next movie should be. He's like, don't read those emails. I'm like, how am I supposed to know what the email is before I open the email? It was just there was a lot of, and at one point there was a lot of like eBay bootleg masks and stuff. I remember Malik called me and he's like, can you go tell those people to take those posts down? And I'm like, what? I think you guys were like, it surprises me that you say, oh, Malik let you post whatever, because I faced like a little, like when I did Myers Museum, I posted whatever I wanted. We had fan stories, I would get contests and stuff like that. But when I got into that official capacity, it was like, can I post this? Can I post that? And every now and then I'd post something and he'd say, take it down. I was also, I felt like I was instrumental in helping shape the direction of the series, because they wanted to do Hellraiser, like Pinhead versus Michael. And Mustafa had called me and I was at work and he called me and I ran outside. So because nobody knew at work I was running this site. And he's like, he just said, I don't think, these two characters should meet in a movie. They're completely different. And he said, can you put a poll up on the website so that people can vote? And I did. And I was really surprised. By the end of the night, it was like 40% in favor of it. And I went, somebody's got to be rigging this, because I thought it was going to be a resounding, like, no. But he's like, he goes, I want you to show, he goes, I want to be able to show Miramax it's a bad idea from the fans. And so I felt really important that day.
But isn't it great though that like they really did like want to hear what the fans wanted too? It wasn't kind of like we're just gonna do whatever, like, and just stick with it kind of thing. The studio wants this, so we're going with it. Like, I'm glad that they wanted to say, like, again, give a voice to the fans and let them be like, no, they don't want this. And again, and that shows how protective Mustafa and Malik, have been from the start, and and Malik, continues to be. I think that I'm sure that's why, as they've been kind of shopping around the series rights and whatever else too, I'm sure a big part of that is like being super protective of what that universe is like, and it's not just another paycheck.
And you guys, when you talk to Mustafa and Malik, you sensed that very thing. They were very careful, and they didn't want to just crank out movie after movie. They wanted them to be great. So that's something I noticed early on.
How lucky fans are to have someone who wants to hear that information. I mean, I think that's unheard of in the film industry in terms of intellectual property owners wanting to hear what their viewers want to see. I mean, it just doesn't work that way in this industry.
Otherwise, there's a lot of we're going to give you this and you're going to like it. You're going to learn to like it, kind of thing. And so it's refreshing.
Absolutely. So I was there when I was there at a couple key times. I walked in with a friend, and Christy was on the phone, and I heard her say, so the remake is happening. Because up till then, the Rob Zombie remake was like, up in the air, and everybody's like, and I was there, and she hung up the phone. I said, tell me. I was like, just tell me. I won't say, and my friend was there too. And I'm like, he won't say anything. I won't say anything. She's like, there's going to be a remake. And I give her this big hug. You know, it just felt good to like kind of get that info. I went to both premieres. I mean, the zombie movies. Oh my God. I mean, when they played at the premieres, they got a really great reception because Zombie was there, like all the actors and stuff were there. But I remember I was sitting next to, I mean, Christy no longer works there. I remember sitting there and she was covering her eyes the whole time. And when it was over, she's like, that is not what I was expecting. It's brutal, but
I have a question. I have a question for you, Anthony. There was that contest where a fan won, I think at the convention, a bit part or something. Was that your doing, or was that something that came from the
it was. So
it was really cool.
It was really cool. I thought, you know, like, come on, we've got to offer a walk-on role. And long story short, people were sending in videos like VHS tapes, and I made the biggest mistake of putting my home address on the website. Mistake. So on the last night, you know, like we ever read like contest rules, it's like by midnight on you know, August whatever. Well, you don't really get mail at midnight, but so I said at midnight. At midnight, I get this knocking on my door. I'm in a gated apartment complex in San Diego, and I'm like, what the hell? And I thought it was a drug deal. They were pounding, and then they went to the other side to the glass door. I was on the first floor, and then there was like a glass sliding door, and I'm like, they're on both sides, and I look out the window and I see one of them wearing a Halloween shirt and holding a tape, and I went, oh my God, somebody, and I was like, just leave it at the door. And I got a really nasty email from that guy. He was like, I got to find this email and post it. And I'm like, I took your tape. What's your big deal? But yeah. So anyway, so then we gave the award. We said, if you come to the convention, you know, you have to be there. I don't know how legal that is or whatever. But like, we did. We gave it. Her name was Heather Bowen. She's on the 25 Years of Terror DVD. And she did film her scene. She told me that she played a waitress in the Rabbit in Red set in the background, just walked around. I don't think they used her. But yeah, it was really, that was cool. I felt like that was my way of kind of getting the fans involved. So, but yeah, they let me do a lot of stuff like that. There was a lot of contests, you know, so just so fun. And then when it ended for me, I kind of went through the same thing you guys went through. It was like, I just sort of started to not want to think about Halloween every second of the day, you know? And so I started not updating the site frequently. And then Malik called me and said, hey, you know, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I think we both kind of wanted to part. Or just find, like you, when you had said, Bruce, you know, just find someone else to just sort of jump in. And I don't know. Do you guys know who runs the site now?
I don't
either.
Because I was even curious. Like, I've seen some Halloween movies, like Facebook groups and like you know, the Twitter account and that stuff. I'm curious, like, are any of those actually sanctioned, or are they just kind of bootleg accounts?
I have no idea.
There was a guy named Justin who ran it at some point after you, Anthony, but I don't think he lasted. There was a guy named
Brian. There was a Brian Raymond who ran it, and then you're talking about Justin Beam, right? Justin Beam.
Yeah, I think that's him.
Yeah, and he's like just for a little bit, but like now I have no idea. But
I'm glad it still exists, though. I mean, just to have that website name around this long, I think that's really cool, and that Halloween has been able to stick to that tradition. As small of a part of it all it is, it's still really cool. I guess on a lot of the DVD releases, they list HalloweenMovies.com on the back, and those discs will be around for a very long time in this world. In people's closets now, I guess. But to have that name there, that's pretty cool.
It was you guys. You guys built it, and as I said, if you build it, they'll come. You know, it was a great vision, and you know, I benefited from it tremendously. I mean, again, I said to you guys when we first started talking, you know, it's like because I was there, it was like, okay, let's do. I mean, I was doing the convention at the same time, and I was hired in the middle of that process. But I don't think if I was hired by them that I would have had the continued dialogue that I had with them, and I ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff for DVDs for them. I actually designed Variety, they had like a memorial page ad for Mustafa when he passed away, and Malik asked me to design it because he's like, you're great with graphics, and I was able to design that. I helped with the one of the memorials that he had. I did a whole bunch of stuff for them. So I hung around in an official capacity. I mean, I wasn't there all the time, but I was there frequently. And so I don't think if I just ran a convention that I would have had the dialogue that I had like with them. And then that led to lots of other things. And so, it was just a really, really great thing to happen to me in my life and career. And I think about you guys, and it's like, but for them, I wonder if I'd be here, so thank you again. I can't express that enough to you guys.
It's fun when you think of like kind of how unique like our roles were in this, because like each of us say all three of us kind of came in at the exact right time for this, because like this doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it would be more on the social media side, but like none of this exists in this way, shape, or form anymore, and it didn't before, and it didn't kind of after. So we came in right at the exact right time for such a unique experience and memories that not many people have at all. So for me, I'm like, it's wild. It's a fun one, and I've met some amazing people, like I mean, Brian and I, even though we don't like haven't talked, like we still trade messages from time to time, and again, Dan, I still talk to Dan to this day. So like all these people that like it started on these in 1995 on bulletin boards all the way till now in 2023, still talking to all these people in this universe here that I've come across, and now finally talking to you, better late than never, at the end here, I'm like, it's just wild, because it's a big chunk of a person's life now. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. This little website kind of did all this.
Yeah.
For me, it was very full circle when Halloween Kills was shooting here in North Carolina down in Wilmington. And that's where I was in school when I started the original fan page website. And just to think about, I remember trying to convince Malik that they should shoot 8 down there in Wilmington. And
Did
all
you
those
really? Oh, that's so cool.
The Wilmington, North Carolina has a really big film industry. And I know in Halloween Kills, there's a line about Market Street that one of the cops says, I think, in the flashback scene. And that's kind of the main drag there in Wilmington, and something I used to drive on every day. And to have that be part of Halloween canon now it's just one of those full circle things. And, as we move towards closing this up, I guess, I sit back, and when I think about this, I'm like, I played this tiny, tiny, tiny little role in this giant piece of Hollywood film history. And how cool is that? I'm not on screen, I'm not in the credits, but I helped it thrive, I helped it survive, I helped it build. And I will go to my grave being a very happy person, knowing that I'm one of the few people on the face of the earth who can say, hey, I got to work a little bit on that film that I really liked as a kid.
Sure. So exciting.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. It was so great. Like Bruce, I've met Brian before, but it's like so cool to meet you, and always great to see you, Brian.
Thanks for organizing this. This is so cool.
I think every Halloween we need to start having a little webmasters reunion and our elite group.
We need one of those like jackets, like on SNL, and like all the people who hosted it multiple times. Yeah, I've got one of those in my basement. I still have that. Yes, I need to get that out.
If I can move my hand right, this is my crew jacket Malik sent for working on Halloween Resurrection.
Whoa.
And I've never stopped wearing this. This is like the most comfortable jacket ever.
I have it in my basement, yeah.
And somehow it's lasted, 20 years or something now.
Yeah.
So
maybe we'll have to go to one of these reunions. I know we just had the one a few weeks ago, but maybe in another 5 years, maybe we all got to get together and attend it, just so we can finally all get together in one place.
I remember telling Anthony a couple of years ago, you really got to talk Malik into having a Halloween Webmasters panel, right?
Yes.
Maybe for the H50 or something.
I mean, it's so funny. I mean, I have people say to me like all the time, like I went to that site every day, and I know that's true because that's what I did. Like for your site, it was like, and you feel like a big responsibility. It's like, oh, I didn't post anything for 2 days. Yeah. Like you feel like you're letting people down. And, crazy.
If we're going to do something, we're going to do it right. That was kind of at least always my philosophy. It's Halloween and it needs to be done right.
Yep.
I remember one last thing is I remember when I took over, I wanted to follow in your shoes and just make sure that I was serving up what you guys were doing. You know, I didn't want to like the Myers Museum was very fan driven. It was like fan fiction and you know, this and that and everything. And I was like, well, how do I switch out of that gear to do it more like you guys? And so I was nervous, but got the hang of it, and just I found that if I enjoyed it and just continued what you guys did, it was going to be fine. And
you rocked it. And two, before we take off, I got to give a shout out to all of the fans who have said such nice things and who did come to the website and who tried to interact with us and gave us pats on the back when we did something pretty awesome, or were quick to criticize us when we made a mistake like that Halloween internet surprise thing. Still, it was really cool that y'all seemed to embrace us and cared to see and read what we had to say. So thank you from our side of Halloween, I guess, to all of the fans, including all y'all here listening to us talk.
Right.
I know. I love like the comments coming through. I'm just as shocked that people like want to hear stories of us doing the website as I was like learning people were actually visiting the website and reading what we were doing. You know, like that, it blew my mind then, like still blows my mind now. It's like it's cool because the older I get, I mean, as we get older, we love telling stories about back in the day. So yeah, I'm blown away that anyone wants to hear those back in the day stories. So I appreciate you organizing this, Anthony, because I'm
no problem. I mean,
like I never even thought about like all of us kind of getting together doing this. So it's
so fun. Yeah, I remember
amazing.
when I had that thought, I was like, how is it that we've never actually all talked before? Even like during COVID, you think we would have done and be like, hey, how you doing? Remember that old website?
Because you each have like completely different stories like that I'd never even heard or realized and stuff. So it's fun kind of reliving those through a slightly different lens now. So this has been a blast.
Anthony, is that Lester?
That's Lester, and I did name him after the dog in Halloween.
Well, at least he's not barking again.
I would say Lester's meowing again and getting on my nerves again. That's what I mean. By the way, one more thing. After the Halloween Returns to Haddonfield convention and we did the documentary, there was still a bunch of interviews we needed. And so we used Mustafa's office to do those interviews. And we had Nancy Loomis was one of them, Jody Lynn O'Keefe, Mark Ward from Anchor Bay. I don't know if you remember Mark Ward.
I do.
He came to the office and a few other people. But I remember Nancy, that was like her first interview that she had done. And I remember sitting there with her. It was just me and her. I was running the camera and I sat in the chair and like I was like, please be in focus. Like I was one of those like just run and gun it. And I said to her, where have you been? And she goes, I didn't know. I said, I'm like, Nancy, how do you not know? And she's like, I didn't know. She's like, I'm an artist and I build things now. And she was an artist. She used to take like, I asked her what her art was. And for everybody who doesn't know, she would take like garbage, like bubble gum wrappers and pencil eraser and stuff. And she would mold them together, put them together and create a new material that she would sculpt. And these were like 8 and 10 foot sculptures. I mean, she had a warehouse filled with these garbage sculptures, which were amazing. And she's like, that's what I've been doing. She's like, so for Halloween, she's like, I had no idea. Well, now you go see her at a convention. She's got lines and lines. And so I think, just the resurgence of the website, the convention, the movies, the documentary, it's like, it just kind of fueled all the fandom to what it is, today. So I know what you're saying, Brian, about being like that little piece. It's like you're kind of there.
Everything you bring up, I feel the need to interject another story.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Nancy, Dan Farron's got in contact with her first. So you were probably the first on-camera interview, but she did an interview for us in '98.
So she lied.
It's true. And I think she had some bad experiences with fans early on when the film was first released. And so I think she very much kind of wanted to disassociate herself with Halloween. And I think that's one of the big reasons why she kind of was out of sight. I mean, I'm just assuming that. But the Halloween reunion party there in 2000, it was the party before the screening was held at the Blue was a club or something there near the Egyptian Theater. And when I arrived there, I was one of the first ones there, and Nancy was standing right there. And so I walked up and thanked her for the interview. And I ended up just standing there talking to her for like 30 minutes. And she brought her kids, and I got to meet her kids, and they were the nicest people. And I mean, cool. I love the character of Annie Brackett, and I just think she's a brilliant actress. And just how cool to just hang out with Annie Brackett for 30 minutes.
It is nice seeing a lot of those folks coming back into the Halloween world that had kind of like tapped out for a while or whatever. And it's nice seeing them, kind of getting their flowers, too now from the fans and stuff. So that's because like I always go down YouTube rabbit holes, people going either to the conventions or whatever else. And it's especially like the one from a few weeks ago. And it's just great because like, oh boy, I mean, even John Carpenter showing up as a surprise in this last one, it's like, I know he's been involved in the series since then, but showing up to a reunion convention, it's like, a lot of these things,
when we did the 25th anniversary, we were in touch with the office, but I got an email that said, listen, just letting you know, this ain't going to happen. My impression was like, there's just no way he's John Carpenter. But I guess 45 years later, you're like, what the hell? I'll just go down there. And
everyone knows as they get older. And it seems like a lot of the folks have kind of mellowed, like, because, I think, I forget, Brian, if you brought it up, or no, actually, Anthony, where it's like, there kind of were like different factions way back in the day of like groups that wouldn't kind of talk to each other from like the original film and stuff. And it seems like a lot of that has kind of thought out over the years too. And I think a lot of people probably also see like, listen, there's plenty of opportunity for all of us. Let's let bygones be bygones. And, let's all just kind of like benefit from this and enjoy, what we've all been a part in creating and everything. So it's nice to see that a lot of most folks have just been like, we're cool, we're fine, let's
thank goodness. And no matter what your feelings are about the sequel films that have come out here in the last 5 years, whether you love them or hate them, how cool is it that it's 45 years later and we're getting Halloween films that has John Carpenter's name on and Jamie Lee, and it just what an amazing thing that still exists.
It might get a television series, some sort of universe there, it sounds like. So, I mean, all the ways it could go. It's wild to think that it's still going, and it probably will, probably it's going to outlive all of us, I'm sure, too, and so it's...
Evil never dies.
No.
Well, guys, it was so great. Thank you so much for hopping on. It was so great talking to you at the same time, and that gave me the feeling that we could go for 20.
I know.
2 more hours talking about Victoria. I have so many stories.
Nate, I feel so bad for you because we haven't really let you even get one question in. We just can't stop talking.
This is what I wanted, though. I wanted to see you guys just interact and trade stories.
Thank you so much for having us, and thanks to all of you who wanted to hear our stories. Appreciate all of you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so
I'm a teacher. I have to go to bed now.
Nate and I are going to hang on because we have to do a little trivia thing. If you guys want to hang on, you can. If you want to hear us.
Brian,
I would absolutely love to, but I have to get up at 4:30 tomorrow morning, and it's 9:30 my time. So
adulthood is so overrated, man.
I know.
Your late 40s is way overrated too.
All right,
thank you guys so much. It's good to see everybody.
Loved it. Great talking ever. Great meeting you finally.
Yes, you likewise.
Good, you guys.
Keep in touch. Email me. Let's keep in touch.
Certainly.
We'll do.
All right, guys. See you.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. All right, that was so fun. Oh my god, I love those guys. All right, let's get on with the so what we want to do here at Stop the Killer is give away some prizes at the end of every show, just to have fun, and like you guys don't have to pay for everything all the time. We'll send you some free stuff. So today we got some good stuff. It's from Fright Rags. I don't know if you guys know, but they put out these really cool 6-inch vacuum form masks for a whole bunch of series, and this is for Halloween 3. I'll take out one of them, and these are really cool. These are like, I don't know, they're $20 each, but hey, look at that. Isn't that really cool? That's just like it's a vacuum form mask. You can't wear it, it's too small. Maybe Lester will wear it. Lester, come here. All right, I won't do that to him. But yeah, so they were sold out. I don't know if they were in stock or whatever, but I have 3 to give away. So we're going to do 1 question per mask, and here's how it's going to work. Nate will read the question, And the first person to type the answer into the chat section, the first person that we see with the correct answer will win one of the masks. So why don't we do, we'll just do this pumpkin mask first. So this is a Halloween 3 pumpkin mask. So what is the question, Nate?
All right. So for what are we doing first? The pumpkin?
Yep.
Okay. So the question for the pumpkin mask, and it's a very fitting question, of course. Name the fictional town where the Silver Shamrock Factory is located. First person to answer gets it.
So we're watching the chats.
Name the fictional town where the Silver Shamrock Factory is located.
Ta-da!
Boom. There we have a winner. Mrs.
All right.
Zombie.
Thank you, Mrs. Zombie. So I don't know your name, Mrs. Zombie, but that's fine. What you're going to do is email me. So I'm Anthony. So email me at stopthekillergames at gmail.com. Stopthekillerjames. It's not stopthekillerjames. Stopthekillergames@gmail.com. Just say, hey, Anthony, I won the pumpkin mini mask, and send me your address.
I just put the email in the chat.
Thank you. And just tell me what you won, and we'll drop it in the mail for you. All right. Congratulations. So why don't we do the witch one right now?
All right. The witch is up next. This is going to be a little
We only win one prize each.
Yeah. One prize per person, but this is going to be a little bit of a tricky one. We'll see if anyone gets it. How many total deaths are there in the original Halloween? Total, and we're talking animal and human combined.
That's going to be tough. Come on, isn't that cool? You're welcome.
Death in Halloween 1978, animal and human combined.
Come here, Lester. All right. See, they're perfect for cats. Watch. He's not liking it.
All right, we got a correct answer.
You do? Okay.
Boom.
Which one is it?
Jasmine Brown, 7.
All right, Jasmine, congratulations. So you win the witch mask. Awesome. And so these are really great. They're, you know, you don't wear them. You just put them out. They're just collectibles. And we actually, if you go to our Ghostface campaign, you'll see that we have a blood splattered version of Ghostface as an exclusive to the Ghostface Kickstarter. And it's really, really cool. So if you want to pick up another vacuum form mask, mini mask, go to that campaign. So again, Jasmine, just email me at stopthekillergames@gmail.com. Say, hey, Anthony, I won the witch. Send me your address and I'll drop it in the mail for you.
All right. Final question for witch mask.
For the skull.
Okay. Final question. This one I think is going to be a little easier. So it's going to be interesting to see how many right answers pop up. This is going to be a speed question. I'm just telling you all. Get your fingers ready. I feel like everybody on this chat right now knows the answer to this question. So it's going to be who types it the fastest. Are you ready? The final question. Name the mask that was converted into the original Michael Myers mask.
Come on. That's easy, guys.
Who's going to be first?
Make it easy so we can give away prizes.
Converted into the original Myers mask.
There you go.
Oh, I mean,
wow,
we got some answers, but I don't see the name of the mask. Not the person, the mask. Boom.
Oh, there it is.
First person to name the mask, Captain Kirk. Big E68.
All right, Big E68. That's who won. You're winning the skull mask. So congratulations. And again, just email me, stopthekillergames@gmail.com. It's in the chat. Say, hey, Anthony, I won the skull mask. Send me your address and we'll get that in the mail. So we want to, you know, we're not trying to bribe you to attend our streams. We just feel like, you know, it's Halloween. Let's give some stuff away. You know, let's have some fun. We're all in the giving spirit. So these are really, really cool. You'll love them. I love my set of masks. So guys, thank you so much. If you have any other questions, let me know. Just to remind you, there's a Silent Night, Deadly Night novel that is still available for pre-order until November 10th. We haven't put that date up yet on the site, but we will. It is incredible. Go watch last week's Q&A live stream with Armando Munoz, who wrote the book. He wrote an insanely amazing, sleazy, shocking book, and it is, I can't even say enough things about it. You will love it if you love the movie. So go pre-order that. Ghostface the Game is still live on Kickstarter. We're very close to reaching our last stretch goal, so go pledge for some stuff. And we have some other really cool things we're going to be announcing by the end of the year. So let's see. We have questions. Will there be any chats about Halloween 3? I don't know. Maybe we will. We'd love to talk about Halloween 3. So yeah, if we can make that happen, that would be amazing.
Okay, this is what we should do. And might be weird to plan this live, but we should find a date some point this month in October where you and I go through all 13 Halloween movies just to kind of discuss, not one of those big long, like 2 hours.
Right.
We're going to break down every one. Let's just go through like 1 to 13. Like, what do we love? What do we hate about it? And just go through them. We should do that.
Love that.
That'd be awesome.
I'm down. I'm totally down. I can talk about, like, Nate and I can talk about Halloween and horror movies endlessly, like a lot of you guys watching. So, H3 game. We love your thinking, Big E. That's all I'll say about that. Cool. All right, guys, we'll let you go. Congratulations to the winners. I really hope you guys liked hearing from Brian and Bruce. I was so looking forward to this. So I hope you were as well. Those guys are great. And they say, like, they built something that benefited me. Like, I get a lot of, like, attention for running the site. But they started it, and they built it, and they cracked through and got it, official. So if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have run it. And I'm so grateful to those guys. So, all right. Thank you, Nate, for hosting.
Let's address this last question there, just because it's on topic. With
so cool. All right. Yeah. So here's the thing. When can we get the two other games? You're talking about My Bloody Valentine and Silent Night, Deadly Night. Tomorrow morning, we are sending out a private link to a secret shopping section on the Stop the Killer website where you can buy the previous games. You can only get that link if you pledge to the Ghostface campaign. So if you go to the Ghostface Kickstarter and make a pledge for the game, tomorrow morning, I've been telling everyone it's been coming. Finally, the inventory had to get squared away and everything's been repackaged and rebarcoded and ready to go. You will be able to get those games, but only if you pledge. So if you go to the Stop the Killer website and you're not, like, you won't find it on the website unless you have this special link. So it's tomorrow morning. So go make a pledge to Ghostface. You'll love the game. It's multiple killers. There's a whodunit angle. You can become Ghostface in the middle of the game. And there's 5 artists that came together to create this artwork. It's the best, not the best one, it's the most complicated one. So go pledge and you can pick up the previous games to complete your collection tomorrow morning. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Night, everybody.
Bye.